home of the master. So if you watched a previous video of my escapades while I was in Pennsylvania, you know that there are two things that have been repaired at Checho's shop. That's going to be the spoiler that was broken by the PPF guy, as well as the front bumper, which got hit by someone who did not leave a note. So the bumper has been resprayed. I'm putting this blue tape on it in order to protect the bumper until I could get PPF onto the car. Now, I should just let the car sit in the garage and drive it home. However, I really want my parents to see this build that we've been talking about. So I'm just gonna, YOLO it, put as much blue tape as possible. We'll be going from DC to Atlanta to New Orleans. It's gonna be over 1,200 miles and about a 17-hour drive. But first things first, let's get this car protected. He knows how many times I've curved my wheels, so he wanted to take it out. I got rear-ended by a Jeep. I don't know what they were doing. We were in stop-and-go traffic. I was crawling in first gear. And then the next thing I know, I'm hit from behind. And it was a completely unnecessary accident. The person obviously was not paying attention. By the way this sounded, I thought whenever I looked at the back of my car, the whole thing would be imploded. Like, I thought it was totaled because it sounded horrific, like this mangly mess of metal and whatnot. And the bumper looked pretty good, looked pretty cosmetically, just a few chips and paint, and the exhaust was rattling. And I'm like, okay, doesn't seem like there's much damage. I'm still going to be able to drive this car to New Orleans. Alright, so just finished filling up and repairing a little bit of loose blue tape that came off. For the most part, it's holding up pretty good. Had a big rain, but holding up pretty nice, and hopefully my paint is nice and protected under there. So yesterday, as you guys know, my car was rear-ended, and the damage looks cosmetic. Doesn't seem to be major, but the exhaust really does rattle a lot when at low speeds. So it's actually quite embarrassing. Like, I went through a drive-through and I just, the car's just sounding like a junk heap. So far the trip is going well. Car's holding up all right. I've had to stop a couple times to kind of like dial in the suspension a bit, because this is the first time I've had the car out on the highway, going, super high speeds, consistently super high, like 70 to 80 plus, consistently. And I found the ride to be kind of bouncy, which is something I hadn't experienced since before I got the alignment after the air suspension was installed. So pretty much what I did was just dialed in the suspension a little bit, added a little bit more stiffness, played around with it a couple times, and very happy with it. Highway driving isn't the strong suit of the MR2, but it's been a very pleasant ride. Quick summary of what was originally an 8-minute monologue. Alright, so in this video, I'm telling you how I got to Atlanta at 9 p.m., how it is 3 a.m., and I'm still awake. And the reason for that is that I'm applying for a promotion which has huge implications for my life. If you watch the channel, you will know that I want to K-swap the MR2. But at $16,000, it kind of gives me heartburn to put any more money into the car that I know I will never get back. A more likely option, whether or not I do or don't get this promotion, is going to be buying another car. I love the MR2, but it's become even less usable with the lack of a luggage rack now that I have the Veilside kit on, and the omission of the rear cubbies because of that's where my air suspension's at now. So I'm seriously considering getting another car. The other option, which would pretty much put a pause on buying another car, is buying some land. Now, I love the Washington, D.C. area, but I will never be able to have the home that I want, which would be at least a 2-car garage, unless I come up with a couple $1 million. So in order to get a new place that's also close to the city, I'm going to have to buy an acre of land in a very safe city called Oxon Hill near DC. And the reason I could afford to buy a home in this area is because of how safe it is. So this is probably the most likely scenario. As I'm making this video, I have noticed that the piece of land I wanted to buy is now contingent. So we'll see if that falls through. Hopefully it does. But all we could do is wait. So yes, car things. Let's just go on to the next day. We got inside the car, took a couple shots driving around the neighborhood. Pretty much both had a pretty tough time getting the drone to automatically follow the car. So this is something that I tried a couple times on the trip and was unsuccessful in doing, and I thought that perhaps it was a me problem, but my cousin himself was also having a hard time getting the drone to follow the car. So let's enjoy a couple shots of the car before I begin the final trek of our journey to New Orleans. Canes is quite possibly one of the greatest things about Louisiana, and it has been the best part of the drive. Finally made it here, about 20 minutes away from the house. I am ready to crash. This drive was tough. I think it's probably because I did not get as much sleep as I wanted to last night because I was working on that resume. So let's close this out. "17 hours and about 1,200 miles in the MR2. And let me just say, it performs admirably. A lot of people will say how much they regret putting bags on their car, how unreliable bags are on their car. And after 1,200 mile trip, not one problem. Part of me was worried that my bags were going to bust, be left on the side of the road. But I just think this goes to show that the most important thing when installing bags is the person that installs it. Curio Garage hooks me up, and I've had no problems with these bags since. There was a small thing that was going on with the suspension adjustment, but that was a me problem and not a them problem. So all I can say, if you're thinking about getting bags and you're worried about it, don't be. You just have to make sure that you have the right person to install it so you can avoid problems that are associated with having a bad install. Like leaky lines, leaky bags, and your tires rubbing through your bags. So just make sure that you have a competent person installing your airbags. And if you're doing it for yourself, make sure that you rope in someone who knows what they're doing so you don't make any rookie mistakes, which would make people regret getting bags in the first place. Let's see how the bumper held up behind this tape. I'm honestly a little surprised. There's a lot more residue here than I was expecting. Now, I've done this once before whenever the bumper got painted the second time, and I really don't see any detectable kind of residue, but now I see a ton. I think that might have to be on the drive over here, went through a ton of rain. We had a lot of rain, and maybe that messes with it. In fact, it's been sitting in the sun for a few hours. So this tape has been on the car for a little more, 48, almost 60 hours or so. So maybe that's also the longest I've left the tape on there, so that might have to do something with it. So I'd say either it's the tape or the rain. Maybe, again, last time I did this, I only had the tape on there for about 8 hours. So it's either after 8 hours, you're gonna have a lot more residue, or after a rain, the way that it just interacts with the paint in the bumper, this gives you a lot more residue. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing clean. That will be another video because there's a story there when it goes to how to wash the car properly. Thanks a lot for joining. Not too much drone footage in this video, or as much as I wanted. I was going for something that was more gears and gasoline, but far from it. But we'll get there, guys.